Like, what made you choose Cloudflare-first, I guess, as a target?
Well, if you
Maybe
go
the
to
better
the
way.
website to AWS, you'll very quickly find the incentives. It's in general, like, it's just a better platform, especially if you're like a TypeScript serverless guy. It's so much faster to deploy to Cloudflare. Cloudflare cold start is so much lower. Durable objects, there's just no. I know like there are people building durable object like stuff, but on Cloudflare, it's just insanely good. Like I can have durable objects all over the world with WebSockets, and they're near my user, and I just write this simple little JavaScript. So the incentive is honestly the platform. Although I really despise their API, and I hate that they don't have IAM policies and proper permissions. Like they're so good at like the front end, and then like the back end is where they drop it. But like we work closely with them. They have a really good team. I think they're a really young, vibrant team, and AWS is more like, I might as well go talk to Chase Bank to get something done. If I were trying to work with AWS Cloudflare, they're actually trying to make a good platform. So yeah, there's no kickback or anything from them. It's just simply a very, very good platform for what I'm trying to do.
Funny enough, to me, this could be what makes Cloudflare usable from my own perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was chatting with Dane like I think a month ago, and I was basically telling him I feel like Cloudflare has the perfect infrastructure and the worst possible developer experience. But fixing the developer experience is obviously achievable, much
Hmm.
easier than fixing the infrastructure.
Hmm.
And like what I've seen so far is something I would use. I
Hmm.
don't need to read the Cloudflare documentation. I just need to know that the primitives
100%.
exist and like be guided by the TypeScript type system and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So definitely a nice achievement.
Yeah. They've gone too far on. Wrangler has sort of invaded. Like, if I was to give Cloudflare feedback, it's like you need to transform into an API oriented company, not a CLI oriented company. Because
I had two feedbacks from them.
yeah,
Kill Wrangler, kill Workerd. Just use a
buy
proper
buy
JavaScript
Alchemy.
runtime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Worker D.
Yeah,
by
I told
Alchemy.
them to buy Alchemy a few times by now.
Yep.
Uh, Worker D, I have a love-hate relationship with, but I totally understand. Yeah, like, be cool if it was Bun or just Node, but I think they have their reasons, their security reasons. Is that fair? I can't really remember, but you're right. But we
I mean,
paper over.
obviously they
Yeah.
started with Workerd at the edge, where if you recall, like years ago, it was just a way of executing some small functions at the
Mhm.
edge to like routing and stuff like that. So for that use case, yes, it was a good thing. But then I feel like they've abused the primitive a little bit too much,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
running a normal program in Workerd is painful. Like I was trying to connect to a Postgres, it's like I cannot use C bindings, and it's like, oh, like this is whole this is a wholly different thing, and I don't want to use like I want to use plain JavaScript. And yes, okay, Node is not the standard JavaScript. One
Mhm.
might argue that JavaScript is only what the engine provides, but then like I'm too used to
Yeah, I know.
normal JavaScript runtimes.
Well, hopefully you just become used to Effect platform, and everything just works in. Like, I want to run this in the browser.
Yes.
If be possible, right? Uh, yeah. I was going to say something there. But like, you're totally right. But also, I just love how it's the only serverless platform that really supports streams properly. But what you can do with streams, you can just pass them around, and they work on the edge. If you've ever used AWS Lambda, they get serialized. It's like it's just not the same experience. Like, you can build S3 here, just one worker grabs a stream, throws it at the bucket, and it's all natively handled. So there's some really cool stuff. If you could build Cloudflare that was Bun, man, maybe we should figure out how to do that. I would love that service. Be cool. Yeah.
There's a few more questions we could probably get through quickly, and then we can look at some AWS stuff as well. But um, one of the questions was curious to hear how Alchemy differs from CDK. For example, CDK cannot build assets in parallel due to the way it builds the graph. How does Alchemy handle this?
Yeah, so CDK, man, I could talk about CDK. Unfortunately, leaned into constructors and synchronous code, and worst case, CJS, not even ESM, right? And also, it's generating CloudFormation. So it's basically a tool chain on top of CloudFormation. It's going to generate the templates, and it'll run some assets. And you're right, it uses synchronous IO everywhere, which is a travesty. Um, well, you're looking at Alchemy, it's effect. We use effect everywhere. We use effect for concurrency, for retries, for everything. Everything is run in parallel. Everything is optimized. Like the whole point is IAC should not be slow, right? It should be really, really fast. So Alchemy has by far the fastest infrastructure as code engine from startup time to deployment. The slowest thing is just getting your credentials from AWS. Everything else is just like instant bun speed. But like we're different because we're not generating a template for a service that does the deployment. And then that service is doing it, and you're sitting here going, what do I do? It's just a program you're running, right? It's just an effect program that you're providing some layers to and running. That's the difference. So I can run it in plan, I can run it in destroy, and then everything runs in parallel. And we know the connection between the graph, so everything runs in graph order, right? And there's also some lifecycle things like pre-create that allows things to run out of order so that you can do like builds and things like that ahead of time and cache those so that way everything can run massively in parallel. So the answer is like we're just a TypeScript program and we're extremely fast, and it's not a service, it's a toolchain. Yeah.
Cool. Two more questions. One, how easy is it to migrate from Terraform to Alchemy?
Uh, Good question. So like we have a feature called adoption, which means if I'm trying to create a resource, it doesn't exist in state, but it exists in the cloud. Is if the provider runs into that and you've opted into adoption, it'll pick it up, right? So that's one easy way to just be like, deploy all this infrastructure again. If it exists, just pick it up and take it off. I
So is
think
that
we,
like almost like for the terraformers among us, is that almost like a Terraform import, except it does it automatically?
yeah, I guess it might not be as explicit as that of like, hey, go import that from there. I don't really know what Terraform is. I'm assuming it's importing from state, or is it just importing from an existing resource?
Terraform import is like you have a particular resource that's already deployed, and you want to import it into the state file
Yeah,
so that now it becomes tracked.
yeah, it's like that, except it's a little bit more just like free flowing. It's like, hey, here's Alchemy at the end of the day is here's my desired infrastructure state. Deploy it for me. And if it runs into an existing and adoption's off, fail. If it's on, pick it up and take it over. So yeah, that's import. It's just not we do also have the ability to sync as well, which is probably the similar
Nice.
thing. It's like, hey, there's been drift in my state, go reconcile and bring everything back into the state store. Um, but I'm pretty sure if we had all the resources, you could just throw this in a coding agent and it would just rewrite it in Alchemy for you. We're probably missing some resources, so let us know if there's missing resources. We can spin them up pretty quickly.
Um, and then one last question from the chat, and then I actually have a question. The question from the chat is how do you monetize Alchemy? Paid support, something else? Question mark.
Good question. Things we're looking at, I don't have the answer, but things we're looking at is when you're working with lots of clouds, there's always the problem of secrets and profiles, and how do I manage those, and how does someone come and onboard and access secrets? And we use something like Doppler, and there's also GitHub secrets. So like secrets manager that's aware of, that's integrated directly into Alchemy, like our state stores, is something that I'm interested in. Standard stuff like dashboards. I want to build my own observability service. I'm using Axiom right now, but I think I can build a way cooler one on top of Cloudflare durable objects. And I did the math, and it's pretty cost effective. So super awesome observability that's better than Axiom. That's integrated in Alchemy aware. I think it could be cool. It's like leaning into OTel and the graph as a way to drive observability more streamlined. I also have some pretty crazy ideas I've been talking to with friends like X402 cloud, like a countless cloud. Just use any cloud provider, never create an account. Something like that would be really cool. I've got some friends who bashed that idea around a few times. So exploring things like that would be a pretty radical idea. But I think there's a safe observability, account management, state management story with dashboards, and that could be worth selling. Beyond that, I don't know. I'm also tempted to just start ripping and building services. Uh, Unfortunately, I always build them as npm packages. Like the thing about Alchemy when it comes to monetization is everything can be a library now, like everything, like so you got to find a service that adds value by being managed, not just takes money because it is managed and we don't make it easy to deploy. It has to add value. So I think observability it could be one of those. I think anything to do with payments could be another one. But like open to ideas, help me out. I'm mostly focused on can I build the best product right now? And then from there and a user base will come a business. Yeah.
Nice.
Is the
Um,
friend that is bugging you about X 402
Yes.
our common friend?
Yes, it is. Yes. It's two friends actually, but yeah, there's I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Shout out to Harry. Yeah.
Exactly, Harris always.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool, because accounts are annoying, right? Just like we're building resources for managing AWS accounts and organizations, and I think that's really cool for like building out networks of cloud resources. But get rid of the account. Just let me use the cloud. Like a real cloud should just be there, right? It should just exist. But yeah. Anyway,
um,
that's sort of my thoughts in that department.
the question that I had was, obviously, as somebody who did DevOps for a long time professionally, I see like an enormous number of applications for this type of uh, library or platform or whatever. Um, how difficult is it to generate your own resources for a given provider with Alchemy? And maybe like you could show us an example of like what that looks like.
Sure. Let me load up the Discord actually, because I did one while I was preparing for this demo. Someone came in and was like, "Hey, D1 is missing some shit." So I on the side I just added, it got AI to do it. So I'll pull that up. Of course, Discord has the worst UI in the world. Um, Here we go. Come on.
A race between Zoom and Discord.
Yeah. Oh no, actually, I saw you post about Rippling. Rippling is the worst product as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. uh, Yeah, so where is it? Ray, where are you? Ray came in and was like, "Hey, missing features in D1. Can we get those added?" I was like, "Sure." And then like, what was it? 40 minutes later, pull request with D1 migrations and imports and clones all built and sort of just like bang, there's your
And maybe like, is there a particular prompt you could feed into an agent to tell it about building a like resource that you're interested in? So like,
build me
you're interested
enter.
build this resource and look at the Alchemy docs, and that's good enough.
No, don't even look at the alchemy docs. Just build me the just come in here. We've already got an agents MD that basically briefs it on what to do. I can walk through a resource, but like it should just be self service, right? Like someone recently added. Let's see, is it still here? Yeah, someone just threw in planet scale. There's planet scale resources, right? Like this person, I don't even really knows how alchemy works fully, right? But the examples that are already in there are so pattern based. The great thing about infrastructure as code, it's the same problem a million times. It's not like, oh, this resource is this interface, and it's like there's properties, outputs, and a resource lifecycle, and they all look the same. And you
But
should
it's
use
like create,
resizing.
read, delete. So
Yeah,
it's
well, a
the
little bit
same.
more. But yeah, basically, provide a
While you're pulling up the provider, maybe you could also include in your response, like these are obviously things that are included in like the Alchemy packages, right? But like imagine you have the desire to uh, create a resource for your own internal things, or maybe you want to you want to create a resource and not wait for it to be upstreamed. Like
yeah. I see.
what would you point your agent at? Just the Alchemy agents file, or is
Yeah,
there like
the way that I'm designing this is like you can sort of see there's this branching tutorial, right? And then there's like reference guides, and it gets sort of
Mhm.
deeper. We'll just have a. Do I even have one? Let's see, guides. Pretty sure I had one somewhere. Provider. I'll create a guide specifically for it that you just throw in your agent, right? And that
Cool.
tells how to navigate our website, but also trying to get more things into node modules so it can grep around in the code base, or like is it a Git submodule, or is it a just in node modules we package all the examples, all the code? Like it should just like less is more kind of thing. We give you a page, it's a jumping off point into the information network, and then AI could crawl that and find what it wants to build it. So you can just like I'll show a little example of a resource maybe. Pick a simple one. Let's go with GitHub comment. Right. So like you would just do this in your code base. It doesn't need to be an Alchemy code base. Like this is why it's so good to just be perfect TypeScript. There's no Terraform to worry about with their custom plugin system and blah, blah. Just write a file. You declare your properties, whatever they are. These are your inputs. You declare an interface. So we have there's sort of like multiple type arguments, but basically they're all necessary to sort of declare, hey, I need these providers. I need the reason why I have this providers is because there ended up being like 1,000 providers and the effect requirements just blows up. So I invented like a concept of collection just to reduce it down to I need Cloudflare rather than I need one of these 10,000 resources, right? Declare that, bang, create your resource, very similar to like a tag. And then I need to figure out bundling. I've got this annoying closure thing, but then you just do like the layer.effect, provider.succeed, or provider.effect. And that works exactly as you would expect it to. I'll show a different one, which would be AWS, because the more interesting is it's just a layer. So declare your dependencies, return the implementation of the CRUD lifecycle. So I go down here, like obviously use AI for this. Like look how much stuff it needs to do. Where is return? Oh my god. Okay. And then you return how to read it. So you need a lifecycle handler for reading state. This is used for synchronization. You can implement custom diff logic. So that's what determines whether something should be replaced or whether something can be skipped. So you can override that logic. We use that to skip expensive builds and things like that. And then you implement create, update, delete, etc. Right. So one thing I want to call out here, and it was going to flow off my AWS demo, but I think we're kind of out of time, is this whole thing's built on top of what another project we have called Distilled. And Distilled is just a collection of effect native SDKs for every cloud provider you can think of. We have a bunch, as you can see, AWS, Axiom, Azure. Like we have fully automated the pipeline of go from someone else's spec to an effect native SDK that's clean, that's got tagged errors and retry, like it's effect, right? And then from there to provider. So if you had something completely archaic, you could just come to Distilled, generate an SDK, go to Alchemy, generate the providers, right?